Hello and welcome back to our series where we are building a people and culture management system. This series is brought to you by Prairie HR Solutions. My name is Jake Finger, Principal Consultant here at Prairie HR Solutions, and this is a sub-series to where we are creating a drill downable selector switch piece here to where essentially we can lock the division in place and then filter further through the job titles. Now, once we get this done, the functionality initially set, then we will take a pause, clean up our code, make it blend in with the rest of it to where it is more dynamic and scalable. So then we can simply do these other pieces here. So where we left off was we created this button here. And what this button does is it essentially locks everything here in place. So we can select executive and it'll populate it, and then we can lock executive in place to where we can't select anything anymore. And then what happens is this will then update only to show the job titles for the executives, which it looks like there's only 5 of them. And then what we want to have happen is when we select one of these, then it updates this, because right now we don't have it updating anything when this is pushed. So obviously we can unclick it and then it'll run just like normal. But what we want to do is when this is clicked, we then want to run that. And one thing that is not happening is when it's clicked, it's updating, of course. But when it's unclicked, it's still populating data on top of data. And we fix that by essentially removing or clearing all the contents of this job title thing out first. Let's go back over to a code and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So what we did is when we initially populated it, we cleared our job. We did this piece. We cleared out everything and we set it to all jobs. So what we need to do is when it's unclicked, do the same exact thing. So we have this comp div lock, which is what is triggered by that button. So we can simply come in here and do that. And then what we also need to do is grab this comp division, set its inner HTML to nothing, and then set the inner HTML. That'll clear it first, and then the inner HTML here will then be set to this, except all divisions. Now, there is a lot of overlap here, and the reason why there's a lot of overlap is because I know we had this originally done like this, kind of where we were going with a whole lot of if-else statements. And then what we did was we consolidated this down to where we can scale it. And what I meant by scaling is we can add another drop-down box or whatnot. What we're doing now is we're creating another sort of stream over here based on that checkbox. And then when we get that built and functional, we will then make it look like this and then blend the two together to where it'll be a little bit, more streamlined. I just don't want to jump into this without knowing the ins and outs of why this exists. So let's see, we have that. And that should be good. There'll be some cleanup here. But once we blend it, this should take over. Okay, so we now need to grab the value of that box when it is clicked, of that division box when it's clicked, as well as the job title box. Because we're going to need the job title box in order to filter by that job. So what we can do is jump right into our if statement here that we used. And let's go ahead and continue this on. We got our division. Now what we should do with this division is, well, no, we're going to need this for division. Okay, so if it is true, if the division check is true, what we're going to want to have happen when we change that job title box, remember this is all those select boxes trigger this event. So what we're going to want to have happen is we want the comp division disabled to equal true. Essentially, we're going to want this whole thing right here. Like that. We don't really need this. Well, let's go through it. Let's go through it. We got the gray. Yep. We want it to be background gray. This is just a repeat if we're selecting that job title box. We want it to just run this too. And then we want to declare our div value. Yep, that's fine. It'll be the comp division value. And then we don't really want to run this because that's just going to reset everything. And then what we're going to need to do is once we have this, we need to write ourselves another if statement, because what's happening here is we need to check to make sure it's the job title. So if you remember, we did something like this initially, and this is what we're going to do to get this to work, and then we'll blend it in with this. So let's write an if statement. And what we need to check, actually, let's back up on an if statement because we don't have it. So let's actually come up here and make ourselves another variable. And let's call this variable comp filter, because what we need to do is know which filter triggered this. And this should look similar to what we did before. So we need to take this event, find the target, and get the ID of that. And then what we can do is write that if statement that we had. And I know we've done this before, but I really want to drill in the basic functionality and what's occurring before we start getting a little bit more high level with this. This way you can do either or, but you'll understand what's happening, so then you can optimize it. So if the comp filter is equal to, let's figure out what our ID is here. Looking for our comp jobs. There's our employee number. Okay. Job title. If it's equal to comp jobs, what we want it to do is essentially jump over to our Google Apps script side and run our filter. But we need the value of this first. So let's create a variable, and let's call that variable comp jobs. Let's just call it value for now. And that is going to be equal to document get element by ID, and that ID is going to be comp jobs. And we are going to want the value of that. There we go. Now, once we have the value of that, we can then send that all the way over to our Google Apps script side. So let's do our Google script run, and we're going to need a success handler because we're going to get data back. And the function that we're going to want to run over there is, let's see, I don't want to use get filtered data. I think I already did get div filtered data. So let's actually change this to drop down data, because that's what that is. And we'll come over here, and this can also be drop down data. Okay, so that way we can just keep it a little bit cleaner. Part of cleaning up and optimizing code is making sure that all your functions kind of make sense. They're not too close together, and it reads more like a book. So this is going to be get div filter data. There we go, because that makes more sense. And remember, the data that once it comes back from our app script side, our server side, with all the array of information, we then just want to send it straight up to the chart. And we do this by sending it to this process data, and then it populates it through the all data variable there that we have up there. So this is going to be process data. And then this get filter data, we need to pass a couple pieces of information over to it. So when we came up here and we were running our tests, you know, these little things right here, we needed our division title and our job title. Well, we have those stored in a variable, so we just need to pass it as an argument. Now we need the comp division variable, but you know the comp division variable doesn't have that value. So we need to make sure that we pass the value of that variable. And we can do that here. It's not best practice, but we're going to clean this up anyway once it gets done. And then we have our job value. This should be comp. There we go. That we can pass here as two variables. Okay, so now let's go back over, let's go create this on our Google Apps Script side. And what we'll do is we'll just go down here. Chances are this is going to get integrated up to the earlier one, so we'll just put it here at the bottom for now. And then what we're going to need, okay, it can't pass this, but it can pass that. Okay, it didn't like the dot value, but since we're sending the data over here, we just need to call it something so we can remove the dot value. We're just passing it. We're receiving it as under a different name. We're just changing the name. And this function's going to do is it is initially going to grab this. And it's not going to be filter division. I guess we can change it to filter division, huh? No, let's keep it comp. We'll keep it comp just for the sake of clarity, I guess. And then we're going to need from this, we're going to need to filter it down by whatever this comp's value is. So let's grab this, and then we will change some stuff because it's not going to be job anymore. It's going to be passing this. So this is going to be comp's jobs value. And then what we need to do is essentially map all of our data just like we did up here with this filter. So what we need to do is come up here, and we can simply grab this map and pull it all the way down. And we'll just copy that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return this jobs filter, which is now the data after it's been filtered by the division and the job. So this is going to be the jobs filter. And then from that filter, we're going to run our map. So let's make sure that we have our ending piece there. Okay, perfect. We're going to run this map, and we're going to map in an object all this stuff right here. So now that actually should take care of our stuff here. So let's see. We have all this. This is good. The division filter goes there. We're using our this. Oh, that needs to be changed. Okay, so we have all of our maps here. This is for all of our pieces, and this is for our actual scatter plot here. Then gender, of course, and our race. Okay, so that looks good. So now let's come over to our total rewards. Let's save that just in case we get a hiccup in the internet. Not a fan of the hiccup in the internet because it resets this screen and I lose everything. So now let's make sure that our comp job filter thing is good. So that's the if. So now what we're going to need is an else. So that is that if statement. And let's just do an else. Here, else do nothing. Okay, there's that. There's that. So let's make sure that this ends here. This should be the full one. Okay, so let's save this. And then let's see what happens here. Let's see what we got. Might need to use an F12 to make sure everything goes through. Okay, so we got a spinner, so we don't have any syntaxes, it doesn't look like. Okay, so let's check our divisions. Let's do finance. Okay, finance is working. Let's do customer service rep. All demographics. Now this is just that one level. I'm just making sure that everything's going good with this. Okay, good. So now let's go to a division. Let's pick the executive branch or the division here. Let's set that filter. Okay, it's locked here. So now what will happen is we should have our 5. Yep, we have 5 job titles here. So if we select this, it should then up it. Yep, there it is. It updated it. Of course, there's only one, so these are all going to be zeros or nans. But we now have it by that one individual. And I believe we have one accountant. One accountant, same thing. So now if we pull this out, okay, it's not resetting this, so we'll have to reset that. That'll be easy to reset. But if we come back over here and say do finance, then it pushes it again. And then if we lock it, select finance specialist, it should filter good. And then let's make sure that this works. Okay, good. That's good. Change it to finance coordinator, accountant. Okay, good. Refresh it, and this is where when we hit refresh, it should run that piece again. We should just essentially restart everything, and that should be the populate job. I believe the populate job dropdown is what needs to be ran. Let's go back here and see if that's actually what it is. So the very first thing that we should be doing is getting the comp DB and populating the comp DD. So let's, okay, and then it starts doing this mapping thing. So what we can essentially do is take this, and when this is unchecked, see if it is unchecked, and there's that. It's not checked. Okay, so it should run that. But the interesting thing is it's not repopulating, and I'll have to give that some thought as to why it's actually not repopulating it here. Might just need to reset. Okay, so this pop, map of the IDs, yep. Yeah, so it looks like we'll just need to, once this is done and it's all reset, we just need to jump in and then essentially reload that chart. I'll have to look and see if we need to clear it first and then reload it or what, but we'll have to look at that. But we do now have this filter complete. So now what we need to do is, because, you know, yes, it works, but oh, it's ugly. So now we can start looking at how it is that we can trim this down. And trimming it down, I want to kind of take a more in-depth approach. I know I went pretty quick with this and it may not have made a whole lot of sense, but I do want to take some time and show how we can condense essentially all of this down into a more streamlined piece to kind of look with objects. I really do like the object piece. It works out very quick, or very it's good on the performance, and it works out with scalability. Like we were saying, if we ever needed to create another drop down map or another drop down box, we just simply add it here, and then it just cycles through it. Now the difference why we're not able to use this, we could duplicate this on our other if statement stream here, but I think it would be easier to just incorporate our if statement up here into that if we can. So I hope this has been an informational. Next video, we will clean it up and then possibly build out the other filters for those other 4 drop-down boxes. And until next time, please take care.